It was a cold, gray morning in Kansas City. The kind of morning where the clouds hung so low you could almost touch them, and the air whispered the kind of secrets no one wanted to speak aloud. On a weathered street corner outside an old diner called Margie's Spot, a black man in a sharp gray suit stood silently, his coat buttoned neatly, shoes polished like mirrors. He leaned casually against the brick wall, watching the street like he belonged to it and yet somehow was separate from it. This man was Elijah Brooks. He had no idea that within minutes, his life would be thrust into the heart of a public storm. Not because of what he did, but because of who he was and where he was. Across the street, a police cruiser screeched to a stop. The door flung open and out stepped Deputy Carl Whitaker, white, mid-40s, built like an old football player who never stopped living in the past. His eyes scanned the scene with suspicion, narrowing on Elijah. His hand instinctively hovered near the cuffs on his belt. He didn't ask a name, didn't ask for ID, didn't care. "This ain't exactly a place for someone like you," Whitaker said, his voice like gravel soaked in cold metal. Elijah turned slowly, eyebrows raised, calm but alert. "Excuse me." But that was all it took. In Whitaker's eyes, Elijah's skin was the only threat that mattered. What Whitaker didn't know, what he hadn't bothered to find out, was that the man he was harassing was a federal appellate judge. Judge Elijah Brooks. And what began as a wrongful arrest would soon become a national reckoning. The street on 43rd and Prospect had seen better days. Graffiti clung to old brick buildings like scars. Shattered windows told stories that never made the news. Elijah had chosen this diner not for its coffee, but for its anonymity. He was meeting a whistleblower, a former precinct clerk with stories of systemic abuse. He wanted to listen. He had come early to feel the pulse of the place, to observe. Deputy Whitaker had also been watching. And from inside his patrol car, arrogance painted as instinct told him that a well-dressed black man in this part of town was trouble. The kind of trouble he thought he could handle without asking questions. When Whitaker stepped out of the car and crossed the street, his boots hit the pavement with practiced authority. He didn't greet Elijah. Didn't ask if he needed help. "Mind telling me what you're doing here?" he demanded. "I'm waiting for someone," Elijah answered, calm and courteous. "Meeting a friend for breakfast." Whitaker scoffed. "A friend? Here? You sure you're in the right neighborhood?" "I'm aware of where I am," Elijah said evenly. "And last I checked, standing on a public sidewalk isn't a crime." The deputy's jaw tensed. "You got ID? Am I being detained?" That did it. Without another word, Whitaker grabbed Elijah's arm, twisted it behind his back, and shoved him face first against the cold brick. The cuffs bit into Elijah's wrists. He didn't resist, but his voice was low and firm. "This is a mistake." "No, you made the mistake," Whitaker sneered. "Thinking you could walk around here like you owned the place." A young man across the street pulled out his phone and started recording. "Yo, he didn't do nothing, man," Whitaker barked back. "Mind your business." But the video would soon go viral. Inside the patrol car, Elijah sat in silence, hands cuffed, eyes focused. He was calculating, observing, remembering every word, every action, every second. As Whitaker drove, his mouth ran. "Bet you're one of those wannabe big shots, huh? Suit don't mean nothing out here." The squad radio crackled. "Unit 22, identify suspect picked up near 43rd and Prospect. Possible high-profile individual." Whitaker paused, then picked up the mic. "Yeah, I got him. Black male, early 40s, no ID, picked him up loitering." A long silence. Then, Deputy Whitaker returned to the station immediately. "Do not proceed further. Do you know who that is?" "What?" "That man is Judge Elijah Brooks. Federal Appellate Court. Release him immediately." Whitaker froze. His stomach dropped. In the rearview mirror, Elijah's eyes locked with his. "You made a mistake." Back at the station, Whitaker walked Elijah through the side door, suddenly unsure of his steps. His grip on the cuffs was lighter now, shame already setting in. He put Elijah in interrogation room 3, though neither man spoke. Elijah's silence wasn't passive. It was judgmental. Whitaker paced the room, trying to regain his confidence. He asked for a name. "You didn't ask before," Elijah replied quietly. "Why start now?" Whitaker flinched. The power dynamic had shifted. When the phone call came through, it wasn't just a reprimand. It was a warning from the top. The mayor, the governor, and the Justice Department were now involved. The mistake was irreversible. Elijah was uncuffed. But the storm had just begun. Within hours, the video hit social media. Hashtags exploded. Cable news anchors replayed the footage of a federal judge being slammed against a wall for standing on a sidewalk. Protests began to organize, not just for Elijah, but for the invisible victims. By the next day, headlines read, "Federal judge wrongfully arrested in Kansas City." Whitaker was placed on administrative leave. But Elijah didn't seek vengeance. He filed a federal civil rights lawsuit, citing wrongful arrest, racial profiling, and abuse of power. But he didn't stop there. With the help of his friend and attorney, Mason Reyes, he launched the Brooks Initiative, a watchdog coalition designed to hold law enforcement accountable. City officials scrambled. Internal reviews uncovered patterns in Whitaker's past, body cam footage mysteriously lost, questionable arrests, complaints that had disappeared. The department was suddenly drowning in its own neglect. Elijah testified before a state oversight committee. His voice calm, unwavering. "This isn't just about me," he said. "It's about the culture that allowed this to happen and allowed it to happen again and again to people without my platform." The case moved swiftly to trial. And in the courtroom, where Elijah had once presided over cases, he now sat as a plaintiff. Whitaker, now the defendant, looked nothing like the arrogant deputy from that morning. He looked smaller, grayer, hollowed. The jury heard the recordings. They heard the disdain in Whitaker's voice, the dismissal in his words. They watched the video, frame by frame. The verdict was unanimous, guilty on all counts. As Elijah walked out of the courthouse, reporters swarmed. "Judge Brooks, is this justice?" He paused. Justice doesn't begin or end in a courtroom. It begins when we decide to look at each other not with fear, but with recognition. Today isn't about punishment. It's about accountability. Tomorrow, we work to ensure it never happens again. The Brooks Initiative gained national traction. Police reform bills followed. Body camera legislation passed. Oversight boards were formed. Training programs were rewritten. And in the heart of Kansas City, a new justice center was named in Elijah's honor. Deputy Whitaker, meanwhile, served a sentence for civil rights violations. In prison, he wrote Elijah a letter. It read, "I thought I knew who I was. But the truth is, I only knew the power I borrowed from a uniform. You showed me what real strength looks like. I'm sorry." Elijah never responded. Some silences speak louder than words. Years later, a boy on the east side saw Elijah walking past the school. "Are you the judge from TV?" the boy asked. "Yes." "You think it'll get better?" Elijah knelt to meet his eyes. "Only if we make it. And we will. Together." And as he stood and walked away, the sun finally broke through the clouds above Kansas City. Justice hadn't arrived, but hope had.